my test. Test.
Good evening. We will begin our session shortly. So just for the audience, if you have comments and questions, please raise your hand because we will have to hand over the mic to you. People who are joining online will only be able to hear, via the microphone here. So thank you. Good evening. Welcome to very specific focus session. The aim of this session is, to engage in discussion with the aim of strengthening gravitational astronomy in Asia Pacific region. So when I say gravitational astronomy, it actually covers, multi-band, multi-messenger, theoretical data analysis, every aspects of that. And we have a distinguished set of panelists who are with us here as well as online. So we will introduce them one by one, and they promise us to make opening lines. And because we would like to, many of the youngsters may not know about them, especially because of this, they come from various expertise. And first, let us introduce ourselves. So this is Professor Ian Vega, and I'm from Tata Institute of Fundamental Research in Mumbai, Gopakumar.
Well, you may call me Ian. I moderated the very first session of the conference or the workshop, and I'm also going to be moderating this in case there are any questions. So this is supposed to be an informal conversation between our panelists and the audience. The hope here is to get something going much more regularly, much more long-term, to sort of integrate the different visions we might have about gravitational wave astronomy in the region. And so we hope that this conversation will be a catalyst towards that and get some ideas and some plans to become something more permanent in the near future. So I'm very excited about to hear everyone's points of view on these matters.
Indeed. So the point is that all of you are equally contributing to the session. That's what we would like to have. And we have some guidelines to just to, put it in that direction. So let me begin by, so that's essentially, let me just start introducing the panelists. So we have Professor Albert Kong from NTU-HU. And as we have listed here, he has wide range of interest in astronomy, multi-messenger astrophysics, and obviously these are related to time domain astronomy and compact objects like neutron stars and black holes. And then we have Alvin Chuo, who he's the first astronomer from Singapore. Alvin came from with the pulsar timing array and LIGO LISA activities, and he have a very specific agenda to discuss with us. And this expertise are gravitational wave analysis, waveform modeling, as you already heard about it, and more importantly, this kind of computational and applied statistics, machine learning, and then we have online essentially the father figure of gravitational astronomy in Korea, Professor Himok Lee. He's from Seoul National University. He's the founding director of Center for Gravitational Wave Universe. He was the former director of CASI. He has wide variety of interest in stellar dynamics, gravitational wave astrophysics, galactic structure, and obviously compact objects and binaries. And it's amazing. I think it's going to be 4 o'clock a.m. for him. So he's kindly agreed. Thank you very much, Himo. And then we have another colleague of HIMOC coming from SNU, Professor Munshing Im. So again, he is the, he actually got a telescope, 7DT, and he will talk about that in his talk day after tomorrow, or tomorrow, yes. And he has a wide range of interests too: observational cosmology, galaxy evolution, active galactic nuclei, and surveys both in infrared and optical, and naturally multi-messenger activities. And we have Paul Ho here. Is he online? Okay. Yeah. So welcome. Paul Ho actually, Professor Ho actually done what we are aiming to do. He created East Asian Observatory, and so a real collaboration builder, and we look forward to many tips from him. So he was the former director of Asia, and is a member of this institute too. He has wide variety of interest: formation, interstellar medium, even horizon telescope / radio interferometry, sub-millimeter astronomy. And then we have Fei Wong coming online again from NAOC. Is the current charge of the craft survey using the fast radio telescope. He has wide variety of interest in pulsars, FRBs, radio astronomy, nuclear equational state. These are the theoretician kind of changing over to real observer astronomers. And we have here Professor Tanaka from Japan, from Kyoto, and we already heard about some of his interests: quantum field theory in chaos space-time, black hole perturbations, early cosmology, and obviously gravitational waves. And then today morning we heard Joni. He was essentially the gravitational activity founder of gravitational wave activities in Hong Kong. Before that there was somebody who used to spend partly, but these days is in Leuven in Belgium, and driving all the 3G activities there, and of course Lisa too. I mean, he used to be the chair of testing GR activities in when the discovery happened and all that. Wide variety of interests, as we already heard about, which are both gravitational wave phenomenology, data analysis, source modeling, especially what heard today, developing these very complicated software pipelines and 3D simulations. And of course, we just heard from Yuli, and everyone knows Yuli. So he's the current director of ASIA, and of course, he's a member of this place too. And he's also coming, he has a very active group in CETA, and he has pretty much, he works on pretty much everything under astronomy. So large scale structure, 21 centimeter cosmology, fast radio burst instrumentation, pulsars, computational astrophysics. So I think that's essentially our panelists. Kind of brief introduction. I don't want to bore you. From our colleagues online, then we come down here. Is that all right? HIMOC, if you don't mind.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a few opening remarks. Thank you.
we can support these facilities to take on more central roles. So I'm looking forward to lively and productive discussions about how we can move gravitational wave science forward across all frequency bands and in connection with multi-messenger astronomy. Thank you.
See, I cannot hear very well from the room. I'm not sure whether you've called on me to make remarks or who.
Can you hear me?
There.
Now it's better.
Yeah, Paul, please make your opening remarks. Thank you.
Okay, great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to participate. I think the discussion is also focused on how to build a international collaboration, especially in Asia. First, it takes time, as all of you know, and two, it takes politics, as you also know that our regional politics and interregional politics are always unavoidable. So to overcome these things, the most important thing is to have vision. So in astronomy, in our Asia region, the person who has the greatest influence on our development was Norio Kaifu, former NAOJ director and a key person in Japanese astronomy. And he had, for a long time, the vision that Asia should work together in order to enhance our development, and that the stronger regions need to help the less developed regions, and that we need a persistent and consistent effort year after year after year. And great progress is made when this vision can be shared among enough people or enough regions in our area. And when enough of us can have support the concept of international collaboration and see the benefit and advantage of such collaboration relative to our own developments in each of our region, that is the moment when things can move forward. And when that happens, these senior leaders can use their influences to gather resources, because next to vision, of course, the most important thing is to gather resources to support activities. And then finally, we need to move beyond talking and actually doing things together, and having common projects that all the regions can participate in one way or another is a great way to stimulate continuous meetings, dialogues, and actual working together to build the future for younger people, so that they can always have this vision that they should be working on something that's far beyond the immediate topics that they are working on. So I repeat that, the most important things are a vision, senior leadership, commitment of resources, and real projects to work together on. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate this. Is precisely what some of us are talking among ourselves, and this is precisely the reason we are getting together here, and we are trying to come up with a list of action items to follow up on this meeting and all that, and obviously your inputs will be critical for all that. Thank you very much. So do we have Pei online? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Pei, can you
yes,
hear us?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Yes. So yeah, please make your opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much and for the invitation. I'm Pei Wang, and from the NOC and from the D-List group in Beijing. So I'm working
the pulsar and the fast radio burst search and studies with the fast delay just lead that the commensal radio astronomy fast survey and that the survey is ongoing. That is commensal for the H1 mapping and the FRB and the radio pulsar search and the commensal and do now just have discovered more than 222 new pulsars and about a dozen of the new FRBs. And so among of these and about more than 70 of the new millisecond pulsar have discovered till now. And so that is the new samples that will be involved in the PTA timing array and will lighten to increase that sensitivity through that PTA project. I also have the strong background on the theory calculation and on the neutral star equation of the state. And so combine that fast observation and theory work, I hope that will be have the latent possible contribution and in our future collaborations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pei.
Thank you.
Yeah. So shall we begin with Uli?
Well, and obviously, this is a very nice venue to an opportunity to have everyone together to share their ideas. I think there are a couple of organizations that haven't been emphasized yet. In particular, for example, there's APCTP, which is funding, I guess, which is sponsoring this event, and there are a couple of, as we already heard, regional organizations that are intending to sponsor scientific collaboration, and perhaps this is the right context for us to think which of these could play a strong role. As Paul mentioned, you need, these are organizations that, due to their founders' vision, have some resources that have steady, we can fund these kinds of conferences already. Some of them are even larger, some smaller. We know there's the Coast Bar series as well, also of this region. So there are a number of overlapping, I think, organizations. And I know I've met some of you at some of the other events in the other organizations, and I think we meet each other in various venues. And I think this session's exercise is to see if there's the right intersection of gravitational waves specifically, because each of these, of course, has a mandate that partially intersects gravitational waves, but has many other topics as well. So I think we might want to think what is the right combination of some of these existing features to sponsor concrete collaborations, and maybe the things to think about. Again, I'm kind of coming from outside this field myself, so I don't know that many people yet. I'd love to know more, and I think we want to think about what level do we want to have. I think workshops are very concrete that we can continue. Maybe we could have an annual theme on gravitational waves very specifically, rather than these other meetings that are very, very broad. And then maybe beyond that, think about having concrete scientific focus, ideally funded things. There are, Paul did not mention that yet, but there's EACORE, in addition to East Asian Observatories, that funds inter-regional postdoc fellowships, where the postdocs rotate between regions to work with groups across the region. So that's another example of concrete collaborations. Thank you.
So we are not.
There's another mic.
So it also came up with our discussion with other colleagues. So we are noting it down. So our idea is to have an action item to follow up many of your suggestions, and that will happen. And we will. So yeah, okay. May I ask Johnny to make his opening remarks?
I don't know whether I should do this upright or seated, but feels very formal. Seated? Okay, good.
Sit down, please.
I'll set a precedence for the rest. Firstly, I want to say I agree with everything that Paul just said, and I think he summarized it very well, the things that are needed. I do think those are very top-down things that we can do as a community. I'd also just like to highlight, I think, some of the bottom-up work that needs to be done. And from that perspective, it's very simple. It's getting, like today, getting everyone together, right? And basically letting the discussion roam freely for you guys to understand what each other is doing, and maybe find the connections and really break the barrier. And I think one of the things that I would like to advocate for is try to remove as many barriers for all of you to do, to pursue your interest, and to try to remove as many barriers as possible. And because I think otherwise, the collaboration, the work together will come out naturally, that we don't need to force.
Thank you very much, Johnny.
Okay, I'm Myung-Shin Im from Seoul National University. And my background is mostly galaxies and also AGN studies. And then now I'm doing transient observations with optical IR telescopes. So it's been a great inspiration to listen to many talks in this week workshop. And looks like there are many things that kind of overlap with my previous expertise, not just gravitational wave transient observations, but those are coming from galaxies, AGNs. And I think that there are many areas that my expertise and people like me can contribute to this field. Like Johnny said, I mean, it's very important, I think, to get together or at this kind of venue to exchange ideas and get inspired and then communicate with each other. There are many other things that can be done, I think, but this is kind of the starting point, right? So once you are kind of venue like this, and it's important to start communicating and then making kind of collaborations. And then probably things go from there. Like for galaxies and AGN, there's been like East Asian workshops focused on those topics. And maybe that kind of activities can continue, expand to the gravitational wave related astronomy. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Alvin. So as Gopu mentioned, I am based in Singapore. I have been for almost 3 years now. And I guess, before I actually joined my current institution, there was basically virtually no, not even gravitational wave specific astronomy, but there was no active astronomical research being done in my country. So now, but I think, my role on this panel, as I view it, actually is not really as a representative of Singapore per se, but really more as an informal, unofficial representative of the LISA consortium. So, as you might know, the LISA consortium is a sort of an international collaboration of over 1,000 scientists, right, working in very different fields. And their main purpose, right, is basically to support the success of the eventual LISA mission, which will be launched by the European Space Agency in 2035. That's the plan, at least. And also NASA is a junior partner on that. So the LISA consortium has been around for quite a while. So in fact, I joined the consortium about a decade ago. But because things have sort of changed rapidly in the past years, so LISA has undergone more the final study phases, right, and also passed its final test, which was the adoption review. So that just happened last year, and then at the same time, the consortium is responding by basically doing a reboot of itself, right? So basically, the consortium before all this, it was, depending on your level of involvement, but for some people, it was almost like a glorified mailing list, right? There were no commitments, no formal commitments. So with this reboot, they're going to change that. So, so I don't think I should talk about that right now. Oh, it's up already? But it's this opening remarks. Maybe we can circle back around to it, yeah. Yeah, so, but the point is, yeah, so there's this reboot currently ongoing. Membership has, current members are currently being invited to reapply. Right, so I'm hoping actually in this session to sort of discuss with everyone what is the possible potential and maybe role that an Asian group, right, Asian representation in LISA should be like. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ali.
Hello. So I'm a selfish theorist. So so from my point of view, so to make a good connection in these Asian countries, I think so. This kind of workshop is quite important. And so in Japan we have the annual meeting which is called JGRG that covers a little bit wide range. So from cosmology to relativity cosmology is not very wide. But anyway, so to this workshop, many people come every year because I think most of the important researchers join together at that place, and so people think that there is some benefit to participate in that kind of workshop. And so actually I have never attended this series of workshops before. It's not. It's the first time. Okay. Okay, very good, very good.
We hope there to be second.
I think it's quite important to have some to attract a good researcher. And then automatically, so the many people will come, and we can exchange ideas. And also, it's quite important to have the immediate criticism. So we, as a theorist, we have to step outside, which is already cultivated. So at that time, we need many suggestions from the outside, and so it's quite nice to have such kind of community. So yeah, I'd like to contribute.
Thank you very much, Takahiro.
First of all, thanks for invitations, and probably I'm one of the very few observation astronomer here in this room. And I'm not too surprising because, well, I was trained as a high-energy astrophysicist. So for most of my time, I do observations for compact objects, and only in recent few years, I start working on gravitational wave. And in particular, I'm leading the Taiwan's group to join the Kagura collaborations, and eventually we are the LIGO Virgo Kagura collaboration, or LVK. So what I noticed is that when I attend any meeting about gravitational wave, usually there are two groups of people. Most of them, they treat themselves as physicists. Okay, and one of the very few people treat ourselves as astronomers. And these two groups of people don't talk to each other. And I think that is the problem. And so, for example, even in Asia, we have many observing facilities, and we also have instrumentations for gravitational wave. We have the Kagura, we have the LIGO India, and of course, we should also consider Australia. They have a very outstanding group in instrumentation as well, and of course, astronomy is well known. We are in the same time zone, and so I think in the future we also need to talk to people in Australia as well. And but of course, for to consider collaboration, we need to find a common topic that are interested in both parties, no matter in gravitational wave physicists or observational astronomers. Okay, so maybe today we can start to do something like this to identify a focus topic so that both physicists and astronomers can work together by make use of the facilities in these regions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Albert. So, yeah, so that's a very good point that discussions between astronomers, physicists, and astrophysicists should happen at some point of time. So that's where I know this was the beginning. This is the baby step we took in that direction. So we are, now we are onto the regime where we are, kind of opening up the floor for discussion from the panelists and from you. Ian kind of asked me to kind of walk us through this. I mean, you should have been doing that too, but so it's very clear that the wide variety of expertise do exist here, and then it's a question of we need to figure this one out. What are the facilities available? What are the interests and all that. So as many of the panelists pointed out, that we have gravitational wave observatories both at the hectare level and the nanohertz level, and there are interests to kind of contribute to the millihertz gravitational wave astronomy too. So, and then of course there are theoreticians, and they are data analysis, numerical activity experts, and all that. So, natural way for such a budding collaboration, that's what I'm going to call, or budding consortium, to kind of move forward, is to have, we need to know each other better. Yes, this is, as I keep telling, this is just a baby step. So is it reasonable to expect, we will all go back to our, the regular activities in a week's time? So I was kind of wondering, and we were talking to each other, that how do we continue the interest and interactions? So one possibility is kind of a monthly telecon. Is that reasonable? I know that it may not be possible for everyone to attend. At least we have a common, and many of us attend many telecons every day. So I know this is kind of a burden, but we thought that, and of course there are lots of discussion going on. So hopefully that will also help us to kind of, create the consortium slowly in a very definite manner. But I felt that in order to, and we were suggestions that we should have a website to begin with, maybe that also under discussion. So I would like to have your opinion on those things, and in the question of how do we get to know each other better, so that the collaborations can progress.
Oh, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, okay. I'm Martin Spinrad. I'm a faculty here in Tsinghua. I would like to know a bit better, like, what is your real goal? Because if you go back to the title of this focus session, say like strengthening all this gravitational wave stuff in the Asia Pacific region. But what do you mean exactly? Do you say you want to strengthen what is already there, or do you say you want to strengthen the Asia Pacific region? Because if you talk about the Asia Pacific region, there's a lot of countries missing, yeah, like Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Australia. They're not here. So whatever we decide now, they will never find out in some sense, yeah? Or is your goal that we say the efforts which we already have, that this is the one we want to strengthen and make stronger? Do you want to expand or make stronger, kind of question? What is your goal?
May I take that question? Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes, this is a point. Again, I keep telling you, this is the baby step. So the point is that we are people working in islands, literally.
Literal islands.
Okay, yeah, exactly. And many places, there may be one person. Ian and Alvin are classic examples. And when Johnny came to Hong Kong, it's so the game is to kind of develop, inter-regional collaborations by combining. It's kind of a force multiplier with expertise and availability and all that. And we have kind of big nations here too on the top of that, and so that is the whole idea. It's just the beginning, and you may wonder why that should happen. There are a number of reasons. We can talk that, especially for the mobility of the youngsters, and as well as the early career researchers. That's clearly one point I can think about. Yeah, so that's the goal. It's just a beginning, and we will bring people in. In fact, we contacted many, so it's a slow process.
Just
Does
to add
that
to
answer that? Yeah, please.
Thanks. So if your goal is that you want to expand and involve like really all of Asia Pacific, then you should, the main goal should be to contact more people and build some more like educational network and try to build groups in all these other countries and find them and connect to them and strengthen them. But if your goal is to say you want to have our groups, which are here represented right now, they want to become stronger, then this is a slightly different focus, no? It's your measure you should implement should be different because you have a different target. So the question is, what is your main priority?
Okay. May I give a comment on where I see opportunities? So if we look at different parts of the world, we see there's the superpowers like the US. Okay, NSF has enough money to just do the biggest experiments and put together the biggest groups. They're not inclusive. Okay, they don't require all 50 states to have a representative in every one of these collaborations. That's never part of the discussion. So I think this being comprehensive. I'm not sure that makes it very hard. Okay, it makes it almost impossible to get off the ground. Now, if you look at another region which also benefits from these more than the sum of parts, I would say is Europe. So Europe does very well. It's a large number of small countries, some of them even smaller than Taiwan. Let's pick a random reference point. So, and yet they work together well in a combination of bottom-up and also top-down. So they have the benefit that they have an ERC and other mechanisms that top-down kind of force people to work with each other. Whereas here, we can only do it bottom-up. There is no Asia network. And I think what I'm hearing is the opportunity here for us to do it bottom-up, that whatever can be done, that's more than the sum of parts, because Asia is very scattered. The total GDP of the Asia-Pacific region is actually reasonable, okay, compared to Europe or something. And yet, I would, on the global stage, say we get underappreciated. So being here, when we announce something, we don't get the same visibility as when a US consortium makes an announcement or when a European consortium makes an announcement. So if we can think for us who are, was constrained by not being supported or not being part of a super consortium politically, are there regions that can organically be more than sum of parts? That's the way, I would like to propose starting relatively modestly. And gravitational waves seems to me is actually a concrete enough topic that, and it's even quite broad. Maybe you want to think of even more focused to get things started. If you make it too broad, you run the risk of it never getting off. So, for example, when you list these, could we have concrete monthly activities? Think of a theme every month. This month could be on Lisa. Next, of who might be interested to learn about it. You could have a theme every month and rotate through themes, and then see if any of these gain traction. And those perhaps could, not every initiative necessarily will take off be expected to. It's a bit of like a venture. So I think this Alexis bullet to think, could we hold, and maybe if I may suggest in these monthly telecons to rotate, because it's a fairly large region, but perhaps to think of having a hybrid model. That, for example, we could have a node at IOP here, that 1 month, anybody who can come here easily, certainly some of us who can come here directly, they could just be in person and the rest is online, and then rotate. Next time it could be, in Korea or Japan, and a number of places that actually have a critical mass of people who could actually do it hybridly. Some of them could be completely virtual. So I could imagine that there are opportunities, and I think the opportunity to being in person, to having coffee breaks, and to having dinner together allows also pairwise. So I can see a lot of opportunities, be more than sum of parts, and I really appreciate opening the opportunities and brainstorming what concretely make us more than sum of parts.
Thank you very much, Yuli.
Johnny?
I can use this one. I want to come back to the question. So you make it seem like it's one or the other. I don't necessarily think I agree. I think we can organize ourselves in ways where we can support more, let's say, deepening efforts, right? Try to get the existing groups together and try to help them really be more than the sum of the parts. I think there's also a role for us to play is to get countries, regions, haven't started this, help them on board. If they're interested, there may be regions, countries that are interested in getting into this research. And it's not always easy to just then, okay, let's just start. Even though when you have a group that is much easier to approach and easier to get in touch with, you can actually build that network and you can actually help nurture previously untapped region. You can help them get into this field. And I think, efforts like these will serve two efforts. Now, whether you have separate efforts to strengthen and enhance the individual kind of goals, sure. But I see this as being able to strengthen both.
Yeah, just to summarize, and some of us were thinking about force multiplication. So you still need a force to multiply. So, and that's the point here, as Johnny and Yuli was talking about. It's the sum of the parts, and there will be regions which are not very strong, but it should be possible to bring them along, and that's precisely what Paul was talking about in the East Asian Observatory, and that's the point here. It's a valid point, and again, right now it's all in the, there are lots of teething trouble, and I agree. So one of the discussion point was that if there is a visitor to one of our institutes is giving a colloquium or something like that, we will be happy to announce it in the collaboration. We are not asking everyone to attend or anything like that. So this also helps, and I agree on that. In a local, we will try to do that. Because we are in clearly different geographical locations with many other constraints. So, and many other interests, as you said. So yeah.
Just to add to your point, so the thing is, you mentioned so as part of the organizing committee, we did make a rather strong effort to get every country represented. In fact, we researched for anyone we could find, because the goal really was to get everyone involved. And so I agree with Johnny. These are not the 2 points that you mentioned. I don't agree as well that they are disconnected. They're related.
I think that if you not every measure do well on both topics. So if you what's your focus?
Right, but you mentioned the countries that are not currently represented in this workshop. I'm from the Philippines, and we could have well been not represented if there was not a single person. Luckily, Reggie was my PhD student at some point, and so I got involved. And this was really by just good fortune, and a number of my students are also here. So we're not that much. We're like +1 compared to the other countries, right? And so, but I would already say that this is quite beneficial to us, because I can lend my voice to this. I can bring back what we talk about here to the people I can talk to at home. And the hope is that if we get something going, maybe for a second workshop, a third workshop, a fourth workshop, many more of these other countries that are not represented at the time in this workshop will start to attend, and we'll get something going along the lines of the second point where everyone is involved. Right? So I suppose they're not different things. I mean, at least not completely anyway.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So I think it's important to remember that any enterprise has many parts. And while some part may appear to be important at one point, other parts become the rate defining step at another point. So building yourself stronger is, of course, something we must do all the time. But if you look on the long term, you have to think about what else we need to do, right? That are also have to put some effort in. So in astronomy, we have a very clear example that the strongest unit out there now is ESO, and that's because they work together. Just as Whaley says, some of the small countries are very small, but they are doing very well because they have come to agreement to work together. And the reason why ESO works very well is the funding model. The funding is at the ministry level, not at the science foundation level, but at the higher country to country ministry level, right? For them, first of all, the amount of money is not so big from their point of view because they're working with a much bigger part, the total GDP that they're organizing from, right? Not from the science budget. And second, they can come to agreement to lock in the yearly contributions scale to GDP so that the individual smaller regions can contribute in proportion to their GDP. And once you have formula in place, they can continue year to year to year. And this makes it very powerful for them to always move in unity. So in astronomy for Asia, the recognition is the threat, the competition is from the overseas, right? The overseas, not just because they're strong and they can do a lot of things, they are also recruiting our manpower, right? That's the standard brain drain problem, where our own young people will gravitate to the stronger project overseas and eventually stay overseas to pursue their careers. This is kind of digging out your natural resources, right? It's a form of colonialism. So if you see this as a threat, you have to think about how to survive, right? And just getting stronger by ourselves in each region will not be enough. One has to think about the future, how you are actually going to compete. And it takes a long time to come to that. And as I said, you need people in high place position ready to move forward with a common vision. And that top-down approach is the fastest way to make progress. That is not to say that the bottom-up approach should be neglected, right? It's not that one way solves the problem. You have to move on all fronts. So you have to support the bottom-up approach, but you cannot forget that progress will only be made by people who will actually have the resources. So those things needs to be worked on as quickly as we can, right? Identify the right people, and from region to region, there's a lot of lobbying and discussion with higher ups and people up in the food chains that can make progress. All of these things we've been doing for the East Asian Observatory. For example, in Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, we go and we talk to them, right? So it's not just calling for meetings, but you actually have to be in country working with their infrastructure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So this is Surojit from National Tsinghua University. I'm a PhD student under Professor Robert Kong. So let me just first answer or comment on Professor Whaley's opening remarks. So on next month in June, around I think 14th of June, we will have a gravitational wave open data workshop that's going to be held at NTU. So this would be a good opportunity for people over here. And this workshop is going to be more targeted towards high school students and undergrads, and also including people those who are interested in gravitational waves. So we will circulate this advertisement very soon. So if you're interested in learning about the fundamentals of gravitational waves from theory to data analysis, please come and join us. And I'll try to send the link to Reggie, who can circulate in Asia A. And secondly, to answer that question, how do we get to know each other? My personal suggestion would be to have banquet every day throughout the conference. That would be a great opportunity. And also to have 1 hour of coffee break, because I just had a 15 minutes of coffee break, so I couldn't talk to most of the people. That would be one of the great suggestions. And talking about the least represented countries in GW, recently I had a visit to Fenica University, where I was invited by Professor Quinlan. She's one of the CAGRA member. However, I had given a seminar over there, and I found that people are quite interested in multi-messenger astronomy as well as gravitational waves, because there are people from different backgrounds like nuclear astrophysics, some high energy people. So it looks like they're interested, but somehow some kind of barrier, like for example, some people think that GW is too complicated, or maybe mathematically sometimes too difficult. So I was wondering, like, there should be, I know there are a lot of materials around, even in the open data workshop, but if there could be some very easy way, like explaining that things to some high school student or undergrad, I think that would be a very good way to attract more and more people into our GW community. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, if I can just latch on to what you're just saying, I think this is a great idea. And coming from your last comment, really try to lower and lower barrier to entry and really get them quite early. It's some of the things that we're doing in the Dutch, Belgium, German kind of part to really get everyone excited about Einstein telescope in our case. Where I think, going to your first comment, organizing these workshops, I think one of the force multipliers is to really share material amongst all of these places, right? So that all the effort that you've put in to organize this, we don't have to replicate everywhere, right? We can really just have set material prepared with instructions, maybe even some online help from the different regions that people can just, and then go and really do this. So we don't always have to reinvent the wheel every single time we do these things. And so one of the encouragement I would like to do is really try to collect resources like this together, help each other with translations, etc., into all the different languages and writings that are available, and really get the word out much easier. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for reminding this about something about translation. So I feel that sometimes GW community is so big, and we have people coming from different countries. Some people prefer to understand this in their native language, which actually encourages them to next move forward with the most difficult thing. And so I really like the point that translation is a very important aspect in GW community. I think if we can have some different translated materials, I think some are available, but not most of them, then that would be a good starting point. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much for, may I add one more thing? I mean, I will come back to you in a minute. So we are definitely planning something. Australians, George will briefly talk about it, I think. It's called Pulse at Parks. So the game is to actually, students, undergrad students should be able to actually, get an introduction to pulsars and all that. And then they can actually use a radio telescope, get the data, analyze and things like that. That kind of a hands-on experience. I ran such a thing in India for a few years, and we are definitely thinking about that, and structuring a program for that. And we do have telescopes in this region for all that. And George Hobbs is very happy to help too. And so these are possible, and it will be followed up. And again, this infrastructure and consortium will be used for that kind of purposes too, which will hopefully attract people in other countries where they don't have expertise for the time being. So yeah, that's the plan too. So it's not just for the well, it's all part of gravitational wave from different aspects. So thank you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Hi. I'm Priyanka. I'm from National Tsinghua University. I'm a postdoc there, and I come from particle physics background. So first, I think I completely agree with Surajit that having banquets and more coffee breaks with mandatory lunch boxes will definitely help us in speeding up this collaboration. And as I mentioned that I come from particle physics background, so also I completely strongly agree with the fact that having some enhancing the accessibility towards the basic idea of GW, in very easy language will kind of strengthen this group. And I have two more points which I believe that this will come at the later stage of this collaboration. One is that, as I said, from the particle physics view, that I think we need to we need to have special focus on the interconnections between particle physics and the GW physics, because we are the one who will use the data and interpret from the particle physics direction, which is very important. And yeah, so this is one thing. And I believe that this will come at the later stage. Obviously, the first thing is that we need to meet the basic requirements, as all the panelists have mentioned. And the second thing is that I think in future it would be better to have I think a more gender neutral collaboration, not just in terms of speakers. I think at the organization level. That would be, I think, we can talk about it at in the later part.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. So again, yeah, indeed, yeah. This is the idea, in the sense that, again, this is all initial baby steps. So once you have an infrastructure, a framework to kind of work on, it definitely will happen that way. It will be organic. In fact, I will this monthly telecons I'm thinking about will be, and we are definitely thinking about a web page. It's been talked about that. Maybe APCTP can actually host that itself, and we have a council member here. So so these things will happen, so that material can be collected and all that. Again, it's so we will request volunteers, and so it's not that some senior people only going to put in something, and no. So this will definitely happen. That's the whole idea, is that, I mean, for example, I mean, there are individual efforts as we are all talking about, right? So individual nations. So, but again, Uli, Paul, and Johnny, and all emphasize this point, right? I mean, the game is to put together individually. Yes, we will work, and we will have our specific areas, specific calculations or data analysis things, but this is a bit more than that. Indeed, and we will drag youngsters. Without that, all these things we are talking about are going to happen in 15 years from then. We will be fairly senior by that time, at least some of us. So yeah, thank you. Yes.
Fire. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Okay. I do want to draw us back, as we hit the halfway mark, to what will become our action items. And also recognizing that I do not have a seat at this table, that I'm a temporary worker here. But what I know is that you guys are trying to form something that will last. And one of the things that builds something that will last is interest, right? So how are we going to get people to stay interested? And this is a question that every collaboration has approached at some point, because how do they start, right? So whether it's a scientific collaboration like LEGO Virgo Kagra or something like ESA, there's a question at the core of it, right? And what I'm hearing, especially from what Wei Li said, especially from what Paul has said, that we're approaching an ideological moment in gravitational wave astronomy, right? Where we have detectors ranging the band of gravitational wave astronomy, which is really exciting, but it also means that we're going to rely on everybody from theorists to experimentalists to observationalists in order to answer these questions. And this is largely something that has been disjointed thus far. There is not currently a group that spans all of these bands yet. There are discussions between LVK and between PTAs and between, what's the other one, Lisa, sorry, Lisa. But if we want to form a niche that is going to keep Asian astronomy competitive in the new age of gravitational wave astronomy, I would posit that we think about what all of our interests have in common, right? We have people from particle physics. We have people from experimental. We have people from theory. We have a very small amount of observationalists in this room. And what we're trying to answer is effectively where our interests intersect. And how are we going to sustain that interest? So if we're talking about getting to know each other, right, monthly telecons are great, switching topics are great. We need to create a mailing list that people are going to want to look at, meetings that people are going to want to present at. And so I think when we talk about action items leaving this room, having a name or having a topic of interest, setting up our first meeting, those are probably the things that are going to stick with us the longest. This workshop is a great first step. Having more workshops like this are great first steps. But when we're talking about expanding access and expanding representation and expanding diversity, which are necessary steps to keeping our astronomy, well, accessible, I suppose, but also competitive in the new age, we also need to start with, are we going to see each other again next month? When are we going to see each other? On what platform? And who's hosting? So I think just as we're at the halfway point, I want to remind us that we do have to leave this room with a tangible outcome as well.
Yes. Thank you very much indeed. So there will be an action item. We are noting it down. Some of these things are, and yes, and a list of bullet points as an action item as we move forward. So that's precisely the point. And, it's just the beginning. So thank you. And we are noting it down, many of your concerns and points, and we will, it will be incorporated while we make the list of next step. And of course, we do have many of your email addresses and all of your email addresses, and we can still circulate, Google Doc or something like that. That's also not a problem. Okay, now we are directly, you want to make a statement?
No, I just wanted to add just one even thing on top of what you said. I think interest, indeed, right? I'm fully on board, and I think that is very important to draw people in. I would maybe put something on top, and that's value. So, and this would actually be good feedback. We don't have to do it now, but what would you like to see? How can we provide value for you, for everyone? What would a network like this, what would you hope to get out of it? And what can we help to facilitate? Right? Lower barriers, et cetera, but it's actually also important for us to hear from you. How can we organize? How can we do things so that you feel you get value at? And I think that's also a driver for people to participate.
Thank you, Johnny. So now, as a very concrete item, very specific to, Alvin would like to take us through this slide. So, would you like to come over here? Would you like to come over here, or yeah? Yes.
Hello. Yeah, so I actually completely agree with that point on action items. I was going to bring it up myself as well, but thank you for doing so. And as Gopu has mentioned, this is a concrete action item. So basically, I was hoping for maybe 20 minutes of your time in this session. Enough, right? Yeah. So and at the end of it, I want to actually come up with some concrete plans, right? Or at least something for me to sort of take back to the council or to the current consortium leadership. Okay, so the story is, as I briefly mentioned just now, the LISA consortium is currently in the process of a reboot, right? So, so previously, you could just sign up as a member, right? So there was practically no barrier to entry. You could sign up, yeah. And there was sort of one class of membership, right? You're just a member, right? And okay, so things will change on that front. So the main thing is that currently, as is planned, right? All membership applications. Firstly, the current members are invited to reapply, but also new members will be invited to apply. But all of them will take place on an individual basis. Okay, so you apply individually. You don't apply as part of a group. So previously, that wasn't really the case. A group leader could sign up his entire group. And there are now two categories, right? One is as a community member. Okay, so a community member is essentially, again, a glorified mailing list. You just sign up so that you get put on the mailing list, you get informed of activities, right? So you're in the network, but there are nothing is expected from you. And the other category is that of core membership. Okay, so that comes with more formal commitments. I'll go into that shortly. So, okay, so now with core members, this concept of core members, that's a new thing. And also this concept of member groups. So the name member groups is a bit of a misnomer. It actually refers to groups of core members, right? Technically, it should have been called core member groups. What are you doing? Yeah, so, and how we want to do this at the start is basically by self-organization, right? Okay, and notably, right, community members, right, will not be attached group. Okay, so now it's a bit confusing, right? So, for example, you could imagine there's a research group at this particular institution, right? Maybe the PI is heavily involved in LISA work, but he will have maybe he or she will have postdocs and PhD students who may be involved at different levels. So the expectation actually is that PhD students will not be expected or even eligible to apply as core members from the start, right? So they sort of build up to it. Okay, and so that's also it kind of makes less sense. So this is really my personal it affects me personally, because it doesn't make sense for me to start, for example, a National University of Singapore member group, right? Because there, I'm the only faculty member. I do have postdocs who are involved, but it's a small number, right? And PhD students, they will not actually be part of this member group. Okay, so that's it's probably quite different from how those in large collaborations you might be used to. So it's a bit different the way we're doing things. Another key difference is that the maximum size for such a core member group, right? And this applies to member groups which have members from different institutions. Okay, and the maximum, there is actually a cap on the size. That's 20. Okay, unless there is a good scientific justification. Okay, so that's also weird. The motivation, well, basically this was discussed long ago. So I'm a member of the Transition Council, right? So we had all these discussions. Yeah, basically some people spoke louder than others. So this is what we came up with. And yeah, so it's a bit restrictive, right? So in particular, if we are thinking of having Asian representation via such a member group, that kind of scuppers our plans, right? We can't have a super group. And I think that was actually the motivation behind introducing this restriction, right? They don't want sort of super groups forming unless there's actually a good scientific reason, sort of a cohesive, maybe a research team for the entire group. Okay, and in terms of representation, these member groups basically allow you to get representation on the council, right? So you have every 10 members, you get 1 seat. Okay, so maybe at this point I'll stop. Are there any questions? If not, I can, yeah.
$10,000, and how many core members? What order of magnitude? Are there thousands?
Yeah,
hundreds?
good question. So I think the current consortium is about 1,000. That's the size. So
core members.
No, the old consortium. Yeah, so there's no such breakdown. So now it's a bit up in the air because people have to decide now how much do they actually want to pledge themselves to the mission. So I can't really give you an indication either. I would guess maybe a fifth of them or a quarter would really decide to step up to be core members, but just completely. Okay. Any doubts? Yeah.
Just to clarify, right?
Yeah.
Because a core member does mean something very specific.
Yes.
And
yes.
There are very specific things that you have to do.
That's right, which I'll talk about. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to, because you start making these two terms and.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yes. So that brings me to the next point, right? On the slide. So the thing is, all this is still very new. It's still evolving, and you know the bylaws have just been written, fresh off the press. They will be reviewed annually as well. But currently, the guidelines for core membership, they were designed to not be super restricted. So essentially, they just boil down to two main expectations. So the first is, a core member should contribute significantly, emphasis mine, to a working group project, right, with specific deliverables that are identified. Right, so you would pledge yourself basically to work on at least one such project. There's a list of projects when you sort of sign up. Okay, and the second point here, okay, let me talk about the significantly first. So what does significantly mean? That is the subjective part. So that really, it depends on the coordinators of each project. Okay, so yeah, you can see there's a lot of leeway. So this 25% of research time, that's just a guideline. They just put that in as an expectation. Probably if if you're spending at least 25% of your research time on LISA work, then you're pretty much clearly a core member. You should join as a core member. I think that's the point of this. It will not be tracked or. Okay, so that's the first expectation, and then the second expectation is tied to that. Basically, whatever you've done every year, you just need to do an annual report. Okay, by yourself. Okay, on an individual basis. Then these go to the project coordinators, right, which you have pledged yourself to. So I think it will be quite soft touch, and then they will also sort of randomly review a small subset of these reports. So I think at least at the start, it will not be anything too militant, right? So maybe I was in the LVK for a while as well, so I don't think it will be at that level. Okay. Okay. Any questions on the second point or comments?
Alvin?
Yeah.
So right now, so project coordinators by default have to be core members.
Good point. Yeah, probably they will.
And right now there are no core members in this new system, or it's still in the rebooting phase.
That's right. Yeah. So it's complicated, right? Because this is the reboot, right? So and then new applications have to be approved, but then the question is who's going to approve them? So there needs to be a member zero, right? Yes. At least. But I think the transition council will play that role. So essentially, yeah, I'm on it as well. But more specifically, the membership team on the transition council. But you're right. So the project coordinators, likely these will be already very active members. So it's not likely that you would have one that is not a core member. Okay. And finally, I'll talk about the timeline over which this thing is happening. In fact, it has just begun, right? It started at the start of April. We first started off with inviting basically like legacy members, also the transition council, to apply. And now we've opened up individual memberships for existing members, old members, right? And sort of in batches, alphabetical batches. So that's ongoing. It will continue to take place over the next month. Okay, and then after that, then we will open up to new members who aren't already in there. Okay, and at the same time, basically, member groups are also starting to form, right? So they are inviting basically not proposals, just people who want to start member groups. They are invited to do so at this point. Okay, so that's the timeline. It's kind of a short timeline, which is why I'm actually pressing for, at least a plan, right? And I know, again, this is not a fully representative population of LISA researchers in the region, but it's good enough, right? It's the best we can get. So hopefully we can come to some sort of consensus. Okay. So yeah. So can I open it up to the floor and hopefully, yes.
Yeah, so do you have some idea about what this consortium council will do for the community? Yeah.
Right. So I mean, whatever every council does, right? In a collaboration. So I guess they are the governing body essentially, right? And then they vote on things. They vote on issues and decisions. But it's there's actually something called a management team, which is separate from the consortium council. So they will enact the will of the council. But the team, I think that team is sort of appointed rather than or elected at least.
And so that they are trying to coordinate some research projects. It seems that so the individual research projects are proposed by each group.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
independently.
Actually, yeah. It's a shame that Anna hasn't given her talk. So she's giving her talk tomorrow. So she'll probably have a slide up on that. So yeah, the organization of the whole consortium. It's not just a consortium. It's ESA as well, right? How it talks to ESA. That's a bit complicated, but I think at least at the consortium level, we will break out into working groups. That's the main thing. And within the working group, we have these projects.
I guess as you mentioned the tangible benefit of joining. So I know in some in LVK you have to commit 50% or something, but the return is you get authorship on papers. Is there such a deal here?
Yes, I neglected to put it on a slide. Good point. Thank you very much. Basically, I think yes, there's the option to opt in. There are a few other privileges, but that is the main one. As a core member, so you can opt into any consortium papers that are used consortium. Although those will be like a decade off, right?
So you said that the member core members should contribute to the working group projects, right?
Yeah, at least one project.
Yeah, what kind of working group projects are there?
Good question. Again, everything is very new. So currently, at least when I signed on, I pledged myself, the list of projects is very incomplete. It's still being populated, and they're also very broadly defined, what I noticed. So hopefully it stays that way, because then pretty much anyone who's sort of actively involved in LISA research, I think would sort of, with a bit of massaging, you sort of paint that as contributing to a particular project. So I think that will, I hope that will be the case going, but I can't guarantee.
Yeah, just to add to this point, within LISA, within a particular working group, there are projects which are assigned by the project coordinators. And often what happens is that they are, in the beginning, they are very broadly defined, okay? But at some point what happens is that, because each of these working groups is pretty large, okay? Could be few hundred people, let's say in the cosmology working group, which I am part of, could be few hundred people. And not everybody would be, having expertise or interested in working on a particular project, as and when they are floated, let's say. So within that group, there could be a subgroup which could form, indicating their opinion to work on the project, and at the same time highlight their expertise and the way they can possibly contribute to the project. So eventually that is that subgroup within the group which is going to take care of the project, and each of these projects is often assigned a project leader, or at least two project leaders, who are going to coordinate the project until the very end. And at some point, the project coordinators eventually decide who are the members who have contributed enough to be on the author list of the project, and they are the people who are going to be on the authors of this project. So that's how it works within the LISA. I mean, forming groups on specific projects within the bigger groups. I think this is how perhaps it's going to continue going forward.
Yeah, so I just want to comment. Yeah, thanks, Rajiv, for that, because Rajiv is a member of actually the most active and organized working group, the cosmology working group. So probably how they do things is might be taken as a blueprint.
Yes.
But yeah, so in terms of, because the cosmology working group does produce papers, right, as well on its own. So I'm not sure going forward what the publication policy.
This could be one way to go to to go ahead. I mean, at least this is what, as you said, this is what has happened in the cosmology working group, at least for the last couple of years that it has been active, and perhaps this is one way to go forward. But individual groups might also come up with their own mechanism to, especially the smaller groups within LISA. I mean, as Elvin said, cosmology is the biggest working group, but smaller working groups might come up with their own way of doing it effectively.
Yeah. Okay. So any yes.
Probably a general question, but what's the relation between the consortium and project, for instance? The project needs to fulfill something, and then that's sort of and then there are some legal entities associated with that, but consortium usually sounds like non-legal entity, and then no real responsibility, so to speak.
Okay.
So what's
So I
relation?
Think, Okay. If I understand your question correctly, I think maybe we have different. We're talking about different things, right? When we're talking about projects. So in particular, these projects are, number one, they're not necessarily ESA defined projects. So they're not like official in any sense. These could just be sort of items that are tasks that are identified by the working group, individual working groups, as being important to work on. They don't necessarily involve any sort of formal obligation, not formal, anything more formal, right? There's no paper might come out of them, right? So these are just like tasks, sort of a to-do list in some sense. So I'm not sure if because it sounded like you were talking about projects that are more like actual big projects, also moving parts. Is that right?
Yeah, for instance, ESA has a clear sort of a requirements flow, and then that must be fulfilled. Whereas the consortium, I guess, is not really responsible for that.
Yeah,
right?
but the thing is, there's a lot of overlap in the people, right? So basically, ESA projects will also, I forgot to mention, ESA projects will also count as under these things. So if you're already involved in like the official ESA projects, that will count as a contribution.
Okay, and a bit probably bit different aspect, but this consortium activities are backed up by actual institutions such as NTU or Academia Sinica or whatever, and then that sort of these are legal entities, whereas consortium does not have any real resources like money. Is that correct?
That's true.
Yeah,
that is true. Yeah.
So there should be some sort of organization.
Yeah. So I think that is this whole thing, right? Everything here is done by volunteers essentially. So we are just doing this in support of the ESA mission. But at the same time, we're doing it at a level of formality that is sort of required to get results. So but so I'm not sure what you mean by. I mean, they're not gonna. They're gonna enforce it, and maybe you're asking what are the consequences if they.
Yeah, and if you were, for example, if you are a director of some institute, you need to understand why I should invest on this consortium, for instance, and then.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a bigger thing, right?
Yeah.
That's the bigger problem above my pay grade, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand the.
Sorry, just to pitch in. Yeah. So this is exactly like in LVK or in IPTA, where the individual members, have activities. They're affiliated with a university or an institute, but the universities or institutes are not liable if they don't deliver. So they will lose the membership if they don't perform. it's that level.
Okay.
And then, I mean, in some of these places, there are financial commitments, right? I mean, so you have to, for the publication charges, for the LVK fellows and all that. I don't think that level has reached yet. So it's for the time being, no monetary, kind of commitments, and it's all individual PI. And of course, the funding comes from the university or the funding agencies, but that's the regular way. So,
okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Alvin. Oh,
yeah, I just wanted to close out with so. What is your call to action now? Yeah, so like, what do you want us, or what do you think is the optimal thing?
So yeah, actually, yeah, I was going to take. I know I'm late, but yeah.
No, please go.
I wanted to bring everything back to what I said at the start. I want to go away with some idea of what I should be doing, right? So that I can, if there are any questions, I can also take that back to the leadership. So the focus is on us, right, as the Asian community, right? So what does anyone have any strong ideas or very clever suggestions about what actually we should do about this whole structure? Where do we fit in? Does it even make sense to have an Asian member group, right? What benefits does it have? What cons might it have? So yeah, if anyone can chime in. So at the start, okay, let me give you my personal why I'm even bothering about this. So as I mentioned, I'm on the transition council. I'm also going for tenure, so I need to be involved in all these things, right? So it's a very selfish personal reason, and basically I saw this basically the first point, right? The first section. Essentially, your only core members really matter in a sense, right? So it doesn't make sense to have a member group that doesn't even meet the minimum size for representation. Okay, and really that to me is the important thing. So right now on the transition council, I think I am the only Asian member, if I'm not wrong, which is also, that's way too little. So we don't really have a voice, right? So in terms of like voting on the important issues, we're not represented at all. So my initial idea was I would just reach out to, in fact, I just reached out to some of my friends, right, to see, hey, do you want to join forces? Maybe we can get over that threshold, right? But then it sort of blew up into something bigger, right? So now, but then the problem is now we are told that there's this cap of 20 people, right? Although, again, because everything is up for debate, it's still quite new. So, John Gare, actually, who's the chair of the consortium, science group anyway. So he basically he said, if you can justify why there needs to be an Asian group, right, that's bigger than 20, then probably it might be acceptable in principle as well. So it's not really set in stone. Okay, so this is sort of the overall picture.
Yeah.
So yeah, does anyone?
Yeah, I have a comment. I mean, so this is a golden opportunity, and this is the first step in the way of gravitational wave. We are bringing in Asians together, and right now there are many collaborations, right? And many of us are working on many other things. So we need a leader who will focus specifically on these activities. And I mean, there are interests among many of us. I mean, Rajiv, and I have colleagues in India and in Japan. I'm sure that so I think this is a very good opportunity for us to come together. And I mean, it's very obvious that I'm not going to drop what I'm going to do, right? What I'm doing right now. But that's where the 25% comes in, because if they ask me for 50% contribution, I'm so sorry. We are not going to drop what we are doing for a mission.
Yeah, so but I think the 25% is not even, again, it's just a guideline.
Yeah, exactly. Will not be tracked. So it's a golden opportunity, and this will be again a force multiplier, in my opinion. And yeah, I've been talking to my colleagues out there in India and other places. Yeah, and this is an opportunity, and a concrete action item can be developed from here, and we have time bound too.
So maybe I can be very specific. Okay, I don't think anyone here would say, okay, I'm going to tackle this core aspect just, completely without any background knowledge, right? So they need someone to possibly bring them in, act as a guide to at least get started.
For sure, yeah.
Right? And which I'm looking at you as one of the persons who can do it, maybe others as well. So first thing, identify the few that could really be the let's say mentors, the initial mentors, and then come up with a list of things that you think we can directly pledge to the consortium. And then it's kind of almost like a registration thing where once you have the list and then people have read through the description, they want to participate, they get in contact with you and say, okay, I want to do this.
Yeah,
that's
so yeah, so I think there's already a sort of an email thread going around with what at least the sort of the active researchers in the region that I know or have been put in touch with. So there I'm trying to basically get an idea of, because the main doubt for everyone right now is what they're doing does that constitute core membership? So everyone is afraid of committing. Basically, that's the problem right now. So I think a lot of us in this room, maybe not a lot, but some of us are on that thread, right? Like Takahiro, and so maybe you can comment.
I don't want to be too negative, but I think that's kind of slightly going off topic of this focus session. I mean, I would suggest that if people would like to talk about this, they can contact you, right? Also, I want to remind that this one is only relevant for people who have a permanent job. A postdoc or a student could not decide, oh, dear boss, now I spend 25% of my time doing LISA stuff while they are working on something else. I think most bosses would not be too delighted about this. So maybe we should discuss other aspects.
That's
probably fair, yeah.
Postdocs are allowed.
Postdocs are allowed.
Postdocs are allowed. Grad students are not.
Postdocs, I'm sorry. I think most bosses would not appreciate it if your postdoc comes to you and says, now 25% of my time I do on something different.
No. I completely agree with you. We're just shoehorning this session in here, okay? Because there was no other time to do it. I completely agree with you. And really, what I'm hoping for is those in the audience who already are active LISA researchers, please just reach out to me and let me know what you think, because nobody replied to my email. Okay.
And all this will be summarized and circulated to a wider email network. So that's precisely the.
Maybe if I might say something, what we should ask ourselves is, why is there no Asian LISA? Because LISA was a US project, and then they gave up on it, then it went to Europe. The question is, why did not Asia pick it up?
There are Asian projects, yeah.
I mean,
there is. What is the Asian LISA version?
Well, okay, so China has 2 projects.
These are Chinese projects, they're not Asian projects.
They're not Asian projects,
yeah, but
exactly.
It will open up. It will open up, right? Yeah. Again, all this cannot, people cannot go to a funding agency saying that I'm going to do it for the world. No nation will fund you that, right?
And if you know your geopolitics, Asia is not particularly cohesive. Yeah. Okay, it hasn't been for a while, thanks to the West, by the way. So.
I lived in Taiwan for some time. I know that there's some tensions, yeah. So, but I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, I think if we talk about this properly, we should ask ourselves more clearly, why is Asia kind of weaker? I mean, this was also brought up, no? Why is ESO so much stronger? Why is NASA so much stronger? There are reasons, and we should ask ourselves how we can try to push Asia Pacific region to something closer to ESO or NASA.
Yeah, so I think that brings us back to what at least was the intent of this session, although that is a much bigger problem. Okay, so I will leave it here. Right? Again, yeah, I've taken 10 minutes more than I said I would, but again, I just want something concrete. So if you're in the audience and you hear my message, please let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Alvin. It's to me. Am I audible? Yeah. So the whole idea was that there are many conflicting or intersecting interests out here, And that's precisely the beauty of this consortium we are trying to develop. And it's a wide variety of gravitational wave, focus sessions are possible. And then the question of multi-messenger will come in. So now I just want to move over to the next point here. Thank you for all the info, points raised and discussions. So this is something we are thinking about. Again, this is not possible immediately. So again, we would like to, right now, of course, our focus will be the current researchers, but then as you was pointing it out, Asia has many countries where we would like to get them involved. That cannot happen at the graduate levels or postdoctoral levels. Yes, we will try to. So the question of next generation researchers, so this is one possibility is like either online graduate level or undergraduate level courses. This was actually pointed out, and the hands-on workshops, they are being developed. So lots of material exists out there. It's a question of coordinating those. In my collaboration, which is a small collaboration, it's called Indian Pulsar Timing Array. We done many of this, week online, and then many of this recording exists. So when the new member joins, he or she is asked to kind of listen to those and then come back to us, and things like that. So that kind of infrastructure can develop in the time, and that's precisely one of our action. And very specifically, if you want to go down below undergrad level and all that, Pulsar and Pulsar Parks, not Pulsar, Pulsar Parks kind of a program should be developed, and that's again on our agenda. This is very specifically for pulsars and PTAs and other things, and I'm sure that something similar can happen for the LISA eventually. That will so the game. So this is our and I will be very happy to have your inputs on that, whether you have very specific points to think about or even volunteer to some of these activities. The translation to different languages is part of this, but yes.
So it's kind of connected to this one. I think that's all fine. Yeah, that's a good idea, and that should be done. And there's clearly benefits coming out of this. What I feel sometimes is that some of the senior scientists kind of don't really understand what the problems of the young scientists are, which is not really discussed here. Yeah. And I think you should try to understand these issues better. Yeah, because honestly, if I look at the situation right now, I was doing a postdoc for 8 years. It was too long. And it's just right now, it's just getting worse. And the young people don't want to do this anymore. Because why? Yeah, and this is not being addressed here. Yeah?
I mean, that's a very specific concern. I can actually tell you something more. Before the discovery of gravitational waves, including Jonathan, was actually out there for 15 years or something. Okay? So I'm not going to make a comparisons. But the point is that maybe, yes, there is a question about faculty position and permanent researchers and all that. But we don't even have a collaboration to talk about. And definitely this kind of, pan-Asia collaboration is precisely one way of mitigating at some delta level those concerns. It happens in Europe, for example, right?
I mean, you also in US. US is breaking away.
I'm not worried about you. I'm talking about. I have a template in Europe. Again, that's very, very specific, and again,
no, it's not very specific. If the positions break away in the US and if positions break away in Europe, that will have a chain reaction to Asia. There will be just. I mean, honestly, right now, I would not recommend. Personally, I would not recommend any young person to do science because I will tell them your chance to find a job is.
No, that's your personal point of view.
I said clearly, this is my personal. That would be my personal viewpoint, but this is the point. Now I feel like sometimes we give them like all this great training.
I mean,
we just tell them like, look, you win some ESC grant, you win all those fancy grants, and they still end up being unemployed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think that's
It takes it serious.
Hello?
It's much more philosophical for the time being. So, Otto, please. Yeah.
Hello? Okay, there we go. Yeah, so maybe one of the things that was already kind of mentioned during some of the lunch discussions that may be interesting if we're thinking about kind of the next generation of researchers is also if we have a sort of a centralized web page with also maybe all the postdoc opportunities and PhD opportunities that actually exist, including also maybe faculty opportunities. I think I don't know if the kind of website is the right way to do it. Maybe there's other alternatives, but one of the maybe interesting things to pursue is kind of having a place where everyone can learn about different opportunities. That may be something interesting to pursue.
Indeed. So there will be a web page that we are definitely, and as we were discussing, there will be concrete items to follow around APCTP kind of. That's a forum seems to be very optimal for this kind of efforts. And we are also planning to, again, unfortunately, we can't bring in a younger non-faculty to talk about funding. So those discussions were indeed limited to, some senior members for obvious reasons. So, so this is the plan. Yeah, and so this is again, and then the future of the workshop, we would like to know from the audience, obviously, whether, would you like to have such a workshop in the coming years? Right now, I'm thinking about, there was a suggestion, do it annually, but and again, the funding opportunity, and of course, this will happen not just here, we will move to other countries where everyone can come easily. Unfortunately, that sort of rules out India, but we'll work on that. So therefore, we will definitely push for an online regular interactions and then in-person workshops. This is something we will get a feel from, after there's some sort of a survey, we will love to have that. But at this opportunity, we can, would you think it's a good idea to have it once in 2 years to begin with, or once in a year? And then we have to obviously identify who will host it, because it's also going to be quite a bit of work involved. And I know that Reggie was essentially working on it before Christmas onwards, so it's so yeah. Yes.
Hello. Wait. Hello.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Hello, this is Leah. I'm the graduate student from National Tsinghua University. As a student, I hope this kind of workshop should not be conflict with our lecture time.
Yes.
To be honest, most of my lecture have been conflicted with this workshop. So, well, also in some professors' opinion, I guess they also need to be the lecturer, so they cannot come to teach in the lecture. So I hope this workshop should not maybe these workshops can be held in maybe summer vacation or winter vacation at the sector. Also, I want to answer the previous question. Well, to be honest, I don't agree with what Martin said.
Yeah, that's.
Well, to be honest, besides there are only few students have enough how can I pronounce
enthusiasm.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So I think we need to improve more enthusiastic of students rather than just give up. That is my opinion. Also, also, some students have strong enthusiastic like me. Not only, well, you know. So it is. So I'm so sad what Martin said about. Well, so I hope maybe we can have some well, you know, like a summer workshop or or training camp or anyway, rather than just give up.
Yeah, let me answer that. Indeed, this is the plan now. In the next one, there will be sort of an introductory workshop followed up by the,
But budget is the another question.
Yes. Yeah, and it will be where the classes will not. That's again the discussion came up with that. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think this is their activity this year from LIGO, and but it's a kind of activity in Taiwan. So I organized a winter school. So this is a 10 days camp, and many students joined this workshop from India and also Japan and also local Taiwan. Originally, this idea is from the KEK. So this is the High Energy Institute, and 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago, I joined this workshop. It's a kind of camp. In the 10 days, we focus on the science program from morning to evening. So, but nowadays, so a lot of my colleagues in this workshop have a position. For example, one SKA member is in Undan University, so he's my colleague in this school, and also Korea, Japan, and the Max Planck Institute, Fermilab. So many people go to this place, and I think, because of this younger generation communication, so we don't have anything political issue and something, so we can easy to discuss. And I think this kind of style is very good. And actually, I met my supervisor in this summer school, and today, so he joined this workshop. So yeah, it's a very good activity. So, yeah, to do this kind of model case, so I discussed with Chip, which is a NCU high energy groups. Then they support a small amount of budget, and they try to do the 10 people's workshop. And actually, he's one of the attendants of this workshop. So I think we should do this kind of course, a lecture is very good. So we can know there many things, but to do something small topics, actually we developed the small interferometer. And the students try to align and do and discuss and analysis and do the end-to-end works. So I think, yeah, so this, and I heard, so nowadays, even after the winter school, they communicate each other because there are many SNS and such kind of useful tools now. So I think we should promote such kind of in-phase and also actual school, yeah. And also TA for teaching assistant is also good, have a good chance. So they need to teach something to their many students. So then they also collaborate, communicate with these people. So I think, yeah, of course, we spend some time to prepare, but yeah, so I think these activities, the fact is that, yeah, 15 years later, so we have a good communication. So I would like to, so this is why I started this activity in LIGO, and yeah. So yeah, I hope so. We should organize or do in this kind of activity. Yeah.
Thank you
so
very
one
much.
example. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. Indeed, that's yeah. That's
Can I jump in? I just want to, because I see a lot of people starting to stare at their screens. How many of you would join if we had a monthly lecture on the broadest gravitational wave topic, available, or across the whole board.
Yeah.
How many of you would join a monthly meeting online?
Online, monthly, how many of you will be? Okay, that's reasonably good.
Right, so how many of you would prefer or would also like to have a in-person summer or winter school?
Okay, so that's also reasonable. So we will anyway get this poll done.
I wasn't finished. How many of you want to receive emails about things, opportunities, more emails?
More emails.
More emails. Yeah. Is an annual meeting like workshop like this a good rate? Raise your hand. 1 year, 2 years, 1 year? Who says 1 year is too much? And we need more than once per year. Okay, so that's your frequency.
Yes. Yes, please. Thank you. I think there was a
yes, yeah. So,
please.
so since schools were mentioned, I remind that I'm a particle physicist. So there's a rather popular and quite established CERN school for Asia Pacific, which is quite popular among and then trained generations of students. Which is, I think, that was a successful attempt. So maybe this community can also think along that line. So it is some summer school for couple of weeks, but it was endorsed by CERN. So a lot of the organizations, lecturers, and all the materials and so on have all the resources of CERN to make it happen and make it, and also it's also prestigious to get invited to give lectures there. It's no longer a duty for some of the senior faculty members. So maybe well this region can discuss with the leader of the world, LIGO, and then Lisa, and so on, and then set up schemes like this. And that school is once every 2 years, and for advertisement that 2026 would be in Taiwan.
Okay.
So there would be so we would be bringing people to TSMC and then for visit and so on. So but that is what with high-end physicists, and then a wide spectrum of topics that is offered by high-end physics, both theories and experiment, and there are also tutorial sessions of problem solving and so on. So that is by now 20 years, and then it's quite popular. And the experience is that they train students that eventually would become PhD students and then professionals.
Yeah, I mean, we have sufficient kind of influence in both LIGO as well as PTAs to kind of endorse that. I'm sure that even Lisa
is a CERN endorsed.
Yes,
that makes it different.
So I presume if we work together among the senior people, such an effort, kind of a school can be sort of created, which is part of the collaboration. Maybe may not have 3 weeks or something, and I'm sure that we should be able to get it. I know from IPTA perspective, we should be able to get it endorsed, and I'm sure that that's possible, most likely. Yes.
May I?
Please.
So yeah, I just want to echo Otto's point about having a central website, perhaps, or does not need to be a website, but something where you can find these opportunities, these schedules. I've learned more over having lunch with you guys in the past hour or so about opportunities than I have ever over the past year by clicking through random websites, right? So this is certainly very helpful for smaller country, at least research-wise, like the Philippines. I'd also like to address Martin's point, because I think it's a very valid point, considering that I am already at this age somewhat senior in having been. I was at this age. I was president of essentially our National Physics Society. I'm happy to not be president anymore, but that was me. And yes, I mean, I totally understand that the scarcity of jobs is a moral problem for all students. It has to be a moral problem for all people who have achieved tenure. And believe me, it's a moral question for me as well. But the problems are regionally different. And for the Philippines, for example, I'm proud to say we have jobs. I can honestly say all of my students here who are doing PhDs and MS, and not to brag, they can find faculty positions in the Philippines. But would they want those faculty positions? Probably not, because we do not have the network that will sustain active research in these different institutions. And this is why something like a network of this sort would be very helpful for a country like mine. It's just different.
No, sorry. No, I want to say something. Yes. I was looking to find a job in Indonesia for a long time. They have jobs for Indonesians only. Yeah? But what did they tell me when I went there? Go back to Europe. They have a better life there. Yeah? So I don't know about the situation in the Philippines. They might be able to hire foreigners. I don't know. There might be more welcoming to foreigners. Yeah? But also this is the point. If you think about this, yes, you can find a job in the Philippines, but most people, when they go back to these rather poor countries, they kind of disappear from the research scene. Yeah? So if they go back, they make a decision, or they have to decide if they are willing to potentially kind of disappear from research. Yeah? Which is happening with many people for reasons which we both probably know very well. I don't want to discuss this now. Yeah? So if you ask this question now, then what about the other people? Yeah. So if you talk about now third world problems, if you have like this Indian students who go to US, they make the decision, or like the Filipino students who go to US. Should I go to the Wall Street and earn lots of cash, or should I go back to the Philippines and not do research for much less money?
Yeah? I still do research, but yeah. And I went back to the Philippines. But yeah, but the point of my assertion. The point of my assertion is that they're just not.
I mean, the choice is not. It's a general choice. It's not. You can. Yeah, of course, people should decide for themselves. People have to decide about this. But the point is, why I'm making is, if you look at the ratio of faculty jobs to PhD positions, there's a growing gap on a global scale.
I'm going to shift the discussion a little bit. One thing I wanted to get in before, I mean, this is like an Asia Pacific community. I do think that if possible, we should draw in the diaspora as well, which could also bring a lot of kind of, help and aid to the larger community, right? Those who are, in other places. I'm including myself right now, right? I'm in Belgium, but I would still like to help, this group. I think we should try to engage those
precisely.
as
well. Yes. Yeah. Final. Yeah. Please go ahead.
So I would like to make a very brief comment. I don't work in Asia, but I think Asia is a bright future in science. Is the future, the economic future of the world is in Asia. So the future of science is in Asia. And it's true that it's tough to be a young scientist, but eventually people who are very motivated will succeed. So don't worry.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I think we have 5 minutes past the hour. I think
there's a. Oh, sure.
Okay, from a younger person, yes.
Okay, I think it's working now. So regarding the first point, that's the identifying funding opportunities. So I want to thank NCTS for funding me 3 times for my international travel, and also in THU R&D to Research and Development Office to fund my 2 times travel, and also my professor's grant that supported another 5 travels. But when we mention the word workshop in our title, that what we're attending, the chances of getting the funding is slightly reduced compared to someone who is writing something like attending a meeting. So in future, if we could somehow bypass or replace the word workshop with some kind of meeting or stuff, then we get a higher chance of getting funding. Yeah, so
well taken point. Thank you. We will.
Yeah, because NSTC, I'm not so sure. It rejected. I don't know for some reasons. Maybe I was delayed, but I think the term workshop could be replaced by something like meeting or some like consortium, as mentioned. Then we get a higher chance of our funding getting approved. Yeah, that's just one to mention.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, this we can do. This is in our control. We will be very happy to do this. Absolutely.
Thank you for the input, though.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I have some really a lot of experience in funding. Yeah.
We can even change it now if you want. It's totally easy. Unfortunately, we're kind of running late. It's not an accident that the banquet is immediately after this.
Yes.
Because we hope this to only initiate the start of the conversations we've been having. Let's just thank our panelists in front once again. Thank you very much. And also our panelists online, if you're still there. Thank you very much.
Very much for staying back for 2 hours. So thank you very much, Paul.